Jacob's Quest, and today I just finished watching episode 7 of Invincible Season 2. And yeah, this one starts off at a Comic-Con, and it is very much more about Mark and Amber's continuously dissolving relationship, and that is never more true than this episode. I mean, last episode they were like on the rocks, and it seemed like things were definitely going to be over, and this episode just fully just dissolved all of that. You know, they had like a glimmer of hope. They're kind of continuing their talk while they're at this Comic-Con, and it's kind of Mark's thing, and he's apologizing, and it's really awkward, and then he keeps on having to leave, and he has to go save Rex, because Rex, obviously, he's going through his own stuff. You know, he got shot in the head, and so now he's off trying to take on a bad guy on his own, and he's not quite ready for that. And so, yeah, just him and Mark actually have like a really, you know, kind of deep conversation about everything that's happening between the two of them. And you know, it's interesting to see Rex turning into, like, you know, a real character, you know, like who actually like emotes and has an arc and trajectory, and like, you know, so it's pretty cool that like he's becoming a real person. And anyways, basically just, you know, Mark is still continuing to talk to different people and talk to his mom about like her relationship with his dad, while they were, you know, he had to leave all the time to be a superhero. And you know, was it even a relationship? Was it even fair? You know, or is it even fair to complain about it because, you know, they're doing a good thing? And just how complicated that whole thing can get. And basically this one finally just dissolves their relationship, and not in a way that I expected, because it seemed like things were gonna be okay for a minute. They were planning their trip to go somewhere, and then suddenly they are a Viltrumite shows up. This lady Viltrumite shows up, and she threatens to kill Amber unless they have a conversation. And of course Amber's completely shook because she's never been like directly held hostage, I don't think. So, you know, and this is like a classic superhero trope, right? Like the girlfriend is always the one who gets captured or gets like, you know, choose Spider-Man, choose, you know, like that whole thing, right? So this is like that situation, but yeah, Amber's having to deal with that directly. And yeah, this Viltrumite who people are, Anissa, I think that's what her name is. I know, I've heard of what happens in the comics. I've not read the comics, but I've heard of what happens in the comics, and I was like, are they gonna do the thing? They did not do the thing, and I don't know if they will. You can look it up if you want to know what I'm talking about. You can look it up yourself, of what this character does in the comics. But in any case, she's here to basically test Mark and see if he's ready to, you know, he's basically trying to convince. She's trying to convince him to like let the Viltrumites do their thing and see if he's ready to play his part in that. And of course he's not, so they have a fight, but she's much stronger than him. And she basically gives him a warning, like, hey, other Viltrumites are going to show up, and if they see that you're still fighting this, it's not going to end well. And if anything else, like, this was just to stress how totally unprepared the government and Cecil and all of them are for even a single Viltrumite, because they're like doing all these calculations. They're like, okay, we have these guys, but they're not ready, and we have the team, but they're like 20 minutes away, and Mark is like way not as strong as she is, and you know, like basically all this stuff of like they can't stop her. They're like, if she chose to, she could just like wipe everyone out, you know, just like it's essentially another Omni-Man, you know. So you like think about like, oh, Omni-Man was really bad, he did this whole thing in, was it Chicago, like everything that happened at the end of season 1, it's like any of them could do that again, you know. So even a single one is like this planet ending threat. And basically, yeah, it just ends with Mark goes back to Amber, and they kind of just agree like they have to go their separate ways. And it's totally, you know, again, it's not like this huge like fight, it's just more of like this accepting of like, this is too much, you know, this is too much for anyone to handle. And also, and on top of all of that, you know, you might occasionally have your life threatened by a bad guy, you know, because that's just kind of what tends to happen, you know. So yeah, it looks like that is like officially over, and I do appreciate that the show like took its time with it. It wasn't like this really cheap thing that they like, okay, the relationship ends, they break up, they get in a fight or whatever. It's like, no, they let it like happen in a real natural kind of real way, you know. So I did appreciate that. And then meanwhile, on all that, we have the Guardians of the Globe, who are just a mess, you know, like they have a couple members down. the Immortal is saying that he wants to quit because he's not stable. And you know, Rex, of course, he's out there trying to do his thing because, again, he got shot in the head. So the Guardians of the Globe is just a mess. Meanwhile, the robot guy is trying to, he's like, he's gonna like ruin all this, like, cause so it's the robot guy and then I forget her name, the girl who can turn into the Hulk. Basically, he's trying to get her a robot body, that way she doesn't have to keep on transforming and thus aging backwards, right? And he's like, oh, let me fix you, let me do this, that, right? So you know, look, I get it, he doesn't know how to talk to people or girls, or you know, because he spent his life as like a weird Quado, was it? You know, as like a little guy inside of a robot body. So I get it, right? Like he's not and then he cloned himself and now he's like a clone of that guy. Anyways, my point is, the whole team's a mess. It's not looking good, things are going wrong. And yeah, that's just kind of the state that we're at. You know, luckily Mark's brother is, you know, he's continuing to age even faster. He looks like a 5-year-old now, even though he's only a couple weeks old. Yeah, just we're interesting to see where things are gonna go, especially because at the end of this, and I almost forgot, the end of this, the very end, they had just broken up. And now Mark gets a phone call, and we finally see the multiverse guy. He's at Mark's house, and he's like, hey Mark, when are you coming home? You know, and he's got his mom and brother held hostage by energy blast, or whatever it is. And I guess we're finally going to see what this guy's whole deal is. Now, it's weird that this is happening in like the next to final episode, because, you know, we got one episode left. And now we're just now getting to the whole multiverse thing. Like, Mark's never met this person, you know? So, like, there's no personal thing happening here between Mark and this guy. So, I don't know. Is this really where the season's gonna end, with, like, this conflict? I imagine not, you know? So, I imagine what's gonna happen is Mark shows back at home and something happens really quick at the beginning of the episode. And either he gets away or Mark falls through a world portal, and he, you know, we know he's got to fight like an evil version of himself in the multiverse, but he's also got to deal with this guy, this brain guy who's doing all the multiverse jumping, right? So something's got to give there. I don't know which direction this last episode's gonna go, but it's gotta, you know, I don't know how you top season 1. That's the thing, is like, how do you top that last fight from season 1? You got to do something crazy, but also I'm not sure that you've really built up to that crazy thing, right? Because if it's just a fight with the multiverse guy, that doesn't seem like it's enough, because they have no personal like thing against each, or at least Mark doesn't have any personal thing against this guy. He doesn't know this guy. So I don't know, I'm interested to see what they are gonna end up doing. Meanwhile, Alan the alien, he was drifting through space. He gets seen by some Viltrumites, and it's actually what's her name, Anissa again, I think that's her name. So it's the same lady, and they have a fight for a little bit, and you know, Alan finds like, oh, their punches don't hurt as much, and I can actually punch them back and make them bleed. So yes, he is indeed strong enough to take on a Viltrumite, possibly stronger than a Viltrumite, or at least, you know, some of them. So he lets himself get taken hostage. You know, he kind of pretends to be unconscious, and she's gonna take him on board, you know. So I'm sure Alan's gonna just see like, what kind of chaos can I cause now that I know how strong I am. So very interesting. I like that he's kind of having his own side thing happen there. You know, he's essentially got his own entire show happening next to this one. So pretty cool. And again, I think my only thing is like, how do you top? It felt like season 1 was all leading up to this one ending battle, like all the tension, all the mystery of like, why was he doing this, why did Omni-Man do this, you know, like all that stuff was leading up to that one moment. Whereas this season so far has felt like, you know, it's all been pretty great, but it's all felt like completely separate stories. We got a multiverse thing over here, we got the Viltrumite thing over there, we got the Guardians of the Globe dealing with all their drama over there, we got Mark's brother over here, you know, like we just, all these different storylines don't feel like they're connecting to one final thing. So I don't know what they're gonna do here. You know, it's very interesting. But we'll find out. I'm sure it's gonna be great. You know, like the show's been really great so far, but I am starting to get that feeling of like maybe this won't feel as epic as season 1 because it's not quite culminating into, you know, whatever the finale will be. Oh, also I forgot, there's still what are those things? The squid things? The little squidlings, right? Like there's still some of those on Earth. How is that gonna factor in somehow? You know what I mean? Like we just have so many separate pieces that don't feel like they're connecting in any kind of way. So I don't know. I guess I'm curious what you do now. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know your predictions of the final episode. Like what, you know, is he fighting Viltrumites? Is he fighting this multiverse guy? What are we doing here? What's this final episode gonna be? So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.